Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Network Security Site Auditing Simplified. I'm Dan Klimke. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at NetAlly, and I'll be assisting on this presentation. And would first like to introduce to you our speaker for today's event, and that is NetAlly's Chief Technology Officer, James Kahkoska. James, say hello to our guests.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining.
Got you loud and clear. Thanks, James. So during today's session, you're welcome to post questions using the Q&A tab in your GoToWebinar control panel. We will try to get those questions as we go along, and we also should have some time at the end for additional questions. Also, as you may have seen, we are giving away a free Etherscope NXG to one of our attendees at the end of the webinar, so please be sure to stay on until the end, and we will announce the winner then. With that, let me go ahead and turn the webinar over to James. There you go, James, take it away.
All right, well, thanks again for everybody joining. Hey, this has just been a fascinating webinar for me to develop. I've been working on it for a few months and all original content and learned a ton. Hopefully you will too, and excited to share that with you. So I wanna go back here a little bit. Let me, next slide. So thinking about security, I don't know, it's kind of like, hey, I remember my first breach, right? And I think it was Target back in 2012. And so, if you look back at security, 2010, these breaches were minor. These were like less than 1 million, right? And then 11, PS10. I wasn't a PS10 guy. It didn't affect me, right? I think the first time, wasn't a Yahoo guy. First time I really got affected was Target, and then was an Evernote user, and then I'm a Lowe's guy, not a Home Depot guy. That was okay. eBay, oops, and you can see the numbers just skyrocket here, right? And it feels like kind of the proverbial frog in the water, right? You started out so small, and slowly we're all just getting kind of boiled, and so, and here you look at the last 5 years, right? And it's just filled up, and it's almost hard to not be exposed, to not have your data out there due to a breach. And what's really scary is, especially I think the pivoting and AI that's being brought in by the hackers and things like that. But Facebook's all over the place here, proving that go fast and break things is alive and well. In this case, they're breaking our identities and humanity, but that's okay. So it just feels like you look at this trend over 10 years, and I'm just kind of, you're almost numb to it at some point, and so it's almost like you set up these echo chambers, right? As you start reading security stories, of course, whatever media you're on starts feeding you more security stories, and every morning you sit there and you wake up and it's just and nothing's safe anymore, right? It was set up a VPN. Oh, VPNs don't. Set up password management. Monitor your monitor with network monitoring system. It's just nothing really feels safe. And for me lately, it's almost like the novelty items. Oh, how cute. Fish tank thermometer. But this really comes down to, and what they talk about is, you can't protect what you don't know, and you really need to know, especially with the influx of devices on the network, what's going on. So, and I think the other story that kind of popped out at me and really got me thinking about NetAlly's role in this space in network security, site auditing, and such was this story where basically misconfiguration, right, and provisioning, which, as you'll see here in a little bit, is just really on the rise as one of the top issues in terms of stuff. So, but before I go into it much more, I really need to position our product, right, and our product line, because the security landscape is massive, right, and it's segmented, and in fact, any one of these regions has its own Gartner magic quadrants for deciding who's where and how they all play out, right? But for us, it's really the thing that sets us apart from this entire landscape is we are portable and handheld, right? And then coupled with the assets on the product, right? multiple RJ45s, up to 10 gig network connections, fiber connections, multiple Wi-Fi radios that can do promiscuous scanning, can do connectivity validation at the same time, Bluetooth, BLE, just a ton of abilities, as I'll show you, in connectivity validation, provisioning validation, advanced analysis. The Etherscope in particular is the collection of 20 years of either Airwise development or the network discovery development out of OptiView, out of Air Magnet, that's really been brought and merged together for the first time. Layer 1 through 7, right? We do everything from physical stuff. Wanting to test a cable, validate PoE, all the way up through end user response times, remote operation, and a highly collaborative, as you'll see. So, you know, so I'm really not much about the hype cycles other than watching. You know, the stuff I want to show you here is just pragmatic things you can do now to test the vulnerability of your network and understand the security. So I feel like, you know, we're over here more in the plateau productivity. So, you know, if you think about a site, and again, where we play, right, we're in the sprawl, right? I mean, the endpoints, the clients, the devices, this is the Wild West. You know, up here you've got aggregation. You might be looking at NetFlow, and there's certainly lots of tools that will operate up at this level, right? And you know, and we're not blocking phishing attacks. You know, there's so many aspects of security, but when it really comes to kind of knowing your site infrastructure, how you can what any access vulnerabilities you have and what devices are out there, that's really where we play. That's really the Wild West, right? That's where the multitude of devices, and it really gets hard to, you know, as opposed to wrangling in one gateway or router, you know, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of devices. So, and it's not even this clean, right? The reality is any given site that you have to manage is going to be segmented with VLANs and SSIDs to try to cordon off different areas and departments, but then kind of sprinkled across that, you've just got all the different, you know, the functions of all the devices, from you know, web services, portals, storage. You got a bunch of different variants of operating systems and versions of those to manage, right? Versioning is huge in here. All this stuff, right? Network storage, right? There's, you know, there was the clap was the hack of the week, I guess. Yeah, and then you got all this IoT stuff, which is especially difficult because it's headless, right? And it can be small and headless and really dangerous. And then of course you got all this legacy stuff. You know, you might not want to have you know, 5 or 6 SSIDs carved out, but you know what, you have to, because you've got a capital investment in scanner guns or voice badges or whatever, right? That you made 5 or 8 years ago that's still running old technology, and then you got, of course, the BYOD OnFlex, right? So it's just very complicated, and most people, most of our customers, you know, on average deal with 3 to 5 sites. It doesn't matter if you're in retail, education, finance, right? You know, it's just you know, it's fairly rare to live on one campus or to not have any branches or need to go remote. So you know, specifically to our handheld, there really are a variety of use models relative to security. So you can take the unit, you know, out to the site and go around, and I'll show some of this stuff, and really do penetration testing. What can I reach? Is my segmentation right? What clients are there? You can emulate clients with max spoofing. You can do site RF assessments, right? And I'm going to show this in detail. And these don't need to be complicated. You don't need a CAD drawing. You literally can take a fire escape map and go at it. So and then there's the drop-in model, right? I'm not traveling, you know, with or without COVID, but basically you've got remote sites, and being able to overnight the product in, and literally if it's got any Wi-Fi access on the connectivity radio, you can come in and remote configure it and completely run the unit, either through VNC, through a VPN, or through the cloud, traversing NAV. And then any of this stuff, no matter what you do, we allow you to push all these results up to Link Live, where you can kind of do your button share analysis later and really sit down and take a look at, okay, what's really going on here with this topology? Why am I seeing, what's this weird AP here? And generate reports, right? So those are the use models. So let me shift to provisioning, right? Provisioning is massive, and it's on the rise. If you look at the this is a great report, the Verizon data breach investigation report. They go in, and over the years now, right? They got enough of a track record. What's the highest percentage increase in the last 5 years or last year? It's misconfiguration, right? And you know, Trojans are going down, RAM scrapers down, blah 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 blah. But you know, you can see that misconfiguration is really where the action is. And when they get into it a little bit further, it really is that the vast majority of errors and actions, you know, caused by people. These are complex systems, right? The provisioning manual for a mid-grade Cisco switch is probably about 3,000 pages, right? It's just massive, and so, but you can see misconfiguration is really where the action is, and things are just so complicated to manage. So, you know, when I saw this, you know, kind of architecture picture the other day, I just had to kind of laugh, right? Just because it's like, hold it, there's not even anything plugged in on these switches, right? Where's the bundles of cable, right? This is not reality. You know, this is reality. Every port, VLAN's assigned to it, has to patch over to a patch panel, eventually has to go to a wall plate. How do you know that patch didn't get mislabeled, misdocumented, that somebody didn't flip a cable, saw a spare port, decided to use it, right? There's just a lot going on here and a lot to be juggled in terms of network provisioning, and equally as much on Wi-Fi. So, you know, and then you get to, of course, just the cabling stuff. This, you know, there's whole categories on this, but this one's kind of fun because here's an unknown switch, and one of the things I'll show you is our unknown switch detection, but just kind of buried here in the rat's nest. So, you know, I became interested in this a little more seriously. It was a couple of years ago as we were developing the Etherscope. We'd gotten our discovery filtering in place, and I was traveling about, and I was actually in a major U.S. airport, and I connected to the guest airport Wi-Fi with the Etherscope and looked in discovery, and all of a sudden I saw this category, SNMP agent. What the heck? Clicked on that. Turned out the wireless LAN controller was accessible, and the community string was public. You know, so it hadn't even been changed, right? Factory defaults, huge issue. Simple password, SolarWinds123, right? You know, you name it, all that stuff. You know, needs to be understood and validated. So we're going to talk about provisioning validation a bit. You know, the first thing that Etherscope does that will help you here is auto test, and it's sort of a scripted, your ability to sort of script what you expect in a connection, what you don't expect, what services should be available. What's special about this is it's layer 1 through 7, right? It's going to be everything from, you know, PoE. My gosh, if you have PoE turned on an RJ, you're inviting trouble, because you could take, this is literally the fairly recent ARM processor, PoE powered, you know, mini board. Somebody could just plug this in, tuck it anywhere, and boom, perpetual power, right? A lot less obvious than something with a wall wart hanging off it, or something where they're trying to manage the power because it's got a battery going. So, but it's all the way through as you go through the test here, all the way through to the end user response time. So I'm going to show you some examples of that. So here's the Etherscope screen, and I'm just using a USB tether here to show it to you. So here's all of our apps here, and the reality is we're going to talk about maybe a third of the Etherscope's potential today. But let's go into auto test, and here's kind of our classic auto test, right? So I ran it, and you know, usually we're about connectivity and all that. That's good, but I set up some other things here, right? Of course, wired testing, Wi-Fi testing. So I ran a Wi-Fi auto test here, and you can see that, in fact, and this is fairly common on, just because I got on our employee guest here, that ping is turned off on the router, right? And that's fairly common because you don't want to have somebody just connect to your guest network and start DDoSing your gateway. And then I added a couple of other tests here to in order to make sure you couldn't reach our network attached storage from the guest network. And one of the things about the Etherscope is in these auto tests is you can define all these test targets, and then you can reuse them as many times as you want in profiles. So this happens to be a profile here called guest Wi-Fi. In fact, these are all the profiles I have right now at the moment. And then there's a profile group where I've named all these, and just for convenience, I made this my profile group. But you might decide, hey, I want to get on 3 different SSIDs or 1 SSID in both bands, right? And that becomes a group, easily recallable, named, and that's kind of just about enabling a lesser skilled person to use the products. So, but let's go into. Let me go into this a little bit more here. I actually wish I had a blank background there, but all right, let's focus on the screen. Let's see here. All right, that's a little better. So get wired Wi-Fi. A common profile I use is Gmail access. These are the 4 different ways that you can talk to Gmail in and out. Right, and you can kind of see the response times on all those, and they're fairly similar. They're accessible. Another thing here is any of the profiles on the wired side, you can do a user-defined MAC, right? And so let's go into the configurations here for a second. So for any given profile, you can define whether or not you want PoE, how you want it to connect. I could come in. I've overridden the user-defined MAC here, as you can see, 802.1x if you need to get on the network that way, IP configuration, DNS testing, thresholds for response times, and then you get into these test targets. Here's all my test targets. Here you can see my pool of test targets, and ones I'm not using, but I could just click and add those in. So it gives you a sense of that. Let's go back out here. Now so one of the things you can do in a profile is join a VLAN. And so here I ran a profile. I joined VLAN 508 and made sure again that I couldn't get the network access storage. But it could be anything. It could be any URL, any IP address that you want to validate that from a VLAN. There's no VLAN leakage, right? And in fact, let's see here, which of these is connected? Let me just go ahead and connect this one. Let me start this guy here. So you'll kind of see what happens here. We come in, we link. I think I turned PoE off on this one. VLANs, we immediately start monitoring for all the VLANs we're seeing. So you can see, hey, that's supposed to be an access port. That's not a trunk port, or and so, or hey, that was an old, you patched that VoIP line into the wrong place, and now you got 2 VLANs going where there should be none, right? And so, but you can see our active VLAN monitoring. You can see the switches that I'm connected to and the ports. Oh, this is interesting. Since we do multiple discovery types, this was the correct advertisement, and this was CDP coming out of the switch. But in fact, leaking through, because port advertisements don't block other types of port advertisements. You also see an EDP, and we also see an LLDP coming through, right? So just gives you, again, just awareness of what you're plugged into, what's going on. DHCP, we break it down. Here's the time it took to get. One of the special things about DHCP that I'm not going to demo, but I'll show you on a slide, is we also, during the DHCP phase, we detect second offers. Because I tell you what, if you can hijack the DHCP server, this could be unintentional, right? Could be somebody's got one port on their desk, they want a second port to plug in their gaming console for lunch, and they bring in their home Resi gateway. Next thing you know, it's serving up DHCP. It's you're serving up 192.168, IP addresses in your 10.0 space, right? So, and then we identify. We say, hey, we got a second offer. This is what we took but another offer came in. So second DHCP offer. Let's go back to the unit, and let's see here. And then here's a bunch of tests where I'm using Autotest to validate that I can't get places, right? So a bunch of things you can do there. Here's a server that I was trying to get to, but it was blocked by some sort of a network appliance. So I got a 403, right, which is forbidden. Now, one of the cool things about Etherscope is you can flip the what's a pass and what's a fail on these devices. And so I'm going to come in here and take this guy and say, hey, I got a 403. I should have a 200 OK, but you know what? I'm actually going to expect a 403 and come back over here. And then let me go ahead and test this again now. And instead of this test failing, it should, let's see here, give it a second to complete. It's taking its time to give me the result code. There we go. Now it's forbidden still, right? I got a 403, but it's successful. So we marked that guy green. Let's go back out here. Web portal enabled, right? If I want to make sure that I can't get to a certain portal, another nice control here is that you can put a string in that when we pull the HTTP body over, or anywhere in the HTTP, if this string occurs anywhere. So I looked at this service when I could get to it, and in fact, in the string was the web user login, right, as you might expect, it labeling the login box or the screen. So I said, hey, the response must not contain that. So the fact that it did contain it means that I marked it red, right? And you can see here, hey, the response contained the excluded text. Let's see here. DNS, right? There's a lot going on with DNS and spoofing and issues there. A lot of the systems like OpenDNS actually have a URL that they give you to make sure that you're using them. And in fact, I put in OpenDNSs here, and you can see I got a couldn't resolve host, right? So it was red for that reason. SSL. Connect failures, right? You're trying to get on a 443, it's only running on port 80. It won't connect with SSL. No redirects, right? You should be able to get right to there. If somebody was able to hijack that thing and redirect it to wherever, you don't know. You think you're hitting some domain, safe domain, your bank, you could get redirected to the other side of the planet, right? So you can kind of just get a sense here for Autotest and how you can build out this scripting capability in profiles and profile groups. So let me go back over here. So I'm going to flip in and out of live demos and slides. So let's talk about segmentation. And if my meeting thing weren't right over my thing, I could go into presentation mode. There we go. Seems like it's a mission of these conferencing people to always put these things where you don't want them. All right, so segmentation. Right? So remember the Equifax data breach, right? That was the way I remember this one was it would forever after be impossible to buy a cell phone because you're gonna have to figure out how to unlock your credit, because we all locked down our credit, right? So, but basically the outcome of that investigation from Congress was, hey, proper network segmentation is the groundwork for controlling lateral movement, right? And so likewise, KPMG has a great, 10 ways to segment your network, but basically same story, right? Modern enterprises can address the major challenge much better than a flat network, right? So it really comes down to, VLANs and SSIDs, right? In terms of access and what you require in terms of authentication to access those. So at some point you got to figure that some attacker is going to, through a default password, through a leaked password, through password guessing, through breach released passwords, running through a pool of those, they're going to get into your system, right? And they're going to come in somehow into something. Well, your only real hope is to contain this, right? Okay, maybe you'll get my sales records, but you know what? I'm not going to get the person. You're not going to get the personnel records, and you're not going to get our R&D, our IT, and get all of our designs, right? So VLAN segmentation is huge here, and there's just a bunch of stuff that Etherscope does to help you there. So let me go back to this guy and let's go live again. Okay, so our main tool for segmentation is discovery. So I've plugged into my network here. I've discovered 244 devices. Without even doing anything, and you can see it's just all sorts of stuff, right? VMs and servers and devices, on and on. Without even doing anything, I can just use this free string search here at the top. And well, let's see, I don't know, let's just say, are there any Raspberry Pis? Oh, holy mackerel, look at that, there's Raspberry Pis. Did somebody bring in an Amazon Echo? There's one right there. Look at that. What are those Amazon devices doing on my network? And so you got this great free string search capability, but a lot of the power really is in the slicing and dicing. And so you can come into this little filter guy here, and immediately we categorize. We take everything we've seen on the network and we build it into buckets. In fact, let me go back to device types. These are the number of switches, routers, controllers, hosts, Wi-Fi clients, phones, printers, right, that we've seen on the network. It all gets categorized for you. What's really powerful about this is I can come in here and say, hey, let me get to VLAN 500, let's say. I care about that, and then let me. I thought I shut Teams down. All right, let's see. Okay, so VLAN 500. Come in here. These filters are progressive, so I went from all those devices you saw before now to a much more manageable set. Well, I might be saying AP. There shouldn't be any APs on VLAN 500. We got those off on, VLAN 520, or whatever, right? So I can immediately click on that, come over here, and boom, I've locked it down to one particular AP. So I'm going to go ahead and drill in on that, and I can see that I can see it's on the network. Here's this IP address. It's an extreme AP. I can see exactly where it's connected to this switch on port 23. There it is on VLAN 500. I can come in here to addresses and see that in fact it's got a V4, V6 address, and then on the Wi-Fi side, it's on channel 161 with an SSID of HNT 802.1ax, right? And so I can even take this guy then and say, hey, you know what? I better take another look at him. I'm going to flag him because everything starts out unspecified. And so you can start to basically, as you see devices, as you're slicing and dicing through your network, you can flag them, come in. I can even name it, what's this, just for grins. Okay, so now this is what's this. And so let's come back out. Oops, let's go back into discovery. Let's try a different filter type. This time, let's come in on. Let's pick a subnet. Let's pick the .8 subnet right there. So now I pick this subnet. I can come in here, device types. This is my AP. This is my Wi-Fi subnet, right? And you can see I mostly have APs there. So I'm going to say, let's take a look at my APs. And now I've filtered on APs on that subnet. Come back out, 13. You can see the list of them there. They all are homogeneous, right? This is the power of the compare, right? You can come in, and what's really powerful here is you filter, and you saw that I did a compound filter. But now on top of that, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, hey, I want to sort on whatever. So let me just go manufacture Mac. And okay, Sonic Wall, everybody's happy there, everybody's happy there. Whoa, what's this guy? Why is there an AP that I don't know what this is on my network on that subnet? And so what is it? I'm not sure. It's advertising an MDNS name. Come into addresses, take a look at it. Oh, you start getting clues here, right? As you unravel this. Oh, well, it's connected wirelessly to my network, but at the same time, it's basically broadcasting back out as a Roku, right? And this is just some TV we have sitting in the corner that somebody with smart TV connected to the network, our guest network. But now but you could have connected to who knows any network, right? And probably has an RJ in the back of it. If there's a wall jack, you could have plugged it in there, right? But at the same time, it's actually putting out its own Wi-Fi SSID. I mean, who knows how possible it is to hack through that. So I'm going to once again come in here. Let's go ahead and name and authorize this cap, and let's just do, let's go what, 2, okay, and then I'm going to flag him, fine, okay, we'll take a look at that later. In fact, one of the things you can do, so let me do one more of these. Let's go back to that VLAN because I wanted to show you one other thing. When I was on that VLAN, take out the subnets, take out the clients. Let me get back to that domain real quick. And VLAN 500 and that AP that was an outlier. So I'm looking at this guy going, what's going on here? And one of the tools you can use is path analysis. So I can take a look at this guy and I can say, hey, I want to understand what's between me and him. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and start this. And you can see I'm coming out. I'm connecting into this switch, coming in on port 19 out on 24. And that's 5 gig access into a 1 gig connection between these two, and then I can see exactly where he's plugged in on port 23, right? So that's one way to say where is this guy, right? But it turns out there's a bunch of other ways. So I come in here, that's an extreme guy. So it turns out that, and I mentioned this a second ago, that the site survey. So I did a simple site survey, and I got to tell you, don't let the perfect site survey get in the way of the power of survey, right? Survey was designed for system integrators installing APs. I put them in, they're great, coverage capacity, pay me my money, right? But it is a phenomenal tool for security. So I did a little walkthrough on our thing, and this is a 2-minute survey, right? I literally just took the cubicle floor plan and walked around, grabbed a half dozen points, threw a comment in here where there was a metal post. But I can come in here and let's go to signal strength and come into filters and come in right into the SSID. In fact, we saw that guy was running this SSID right here. So let me say, hey, you know what? I want to filter on HNTAX and okay. And this, by the way, this is why you don't need to get carried away with a lot of sample points. In fact, I play a little game where I just go to I take a grid and I go into any place that I've been, gyms, car dealerships, and I just go to the 4 corners and you can see everything, right? I mean, look at this AP, but where is it specifically, right? I can start to dial down my attenuation, filtering it off, filtering it off, filtering it off, right? Now we're saying, hey, where's it stronger than 48? A little more, boom, right there. That's where that AP is located. So you can kind of see how I was able to take this AP and its SSID and HNT, and then immediately locate it, right, by marrying up these two things. So that's that. Let's see here. Let me go back. Let me do one more here. Let's take a different subnet this time. Let me go back to the top of discovery and come in. And this time I'm going to, let's see here. This time I'm going to come in, and let me come in on the 250 subnet. So I'm going to come in on this subnet. And by the way, every time I do this, it's taking away other things, right? Since we categorize stuff, in fact, if I look at NetBIOS domains, I might be like, holy mackerel, something's still running. The NetScout domain, right, is many of you know, right, we separated from NetScout, you know, a couple of years ago, right? Here's some device that just never got re-provisioned. So it kind of speaks to that provisioning errors, you know, human factor stuff, right? So come in here, device types, I'm on that subnet. I'm like, there's a printer. Why is this printer here? There should not be a printer on this subnet. So that turns out somebody hooked up a brother printer. Let me take a look at this. And you know, printers and a lot of things are just so chatty and open out of the box. They just want to plug and play with everything, right? Minimum hassle. So they're playing MDNS and advertising NetBIOS and SNMP, and you can see that we're able to go into this printer and basically pick up all the different names for it, all the IP address, and then what's cool is, you know, as we have this IP address, and I can see how long it's been up. I can see the interfaces. In fact, when I look at it, I can see that there's even a Wi-Fi interface that's currently down, but could be used here. I know that because that's a Wi-Fi Mac manufacturer, and the speed's weird, right? That's not Ethernet decade speed. But I can come in here, look at this device, and this is where the arsenal of tools on the handheld really come into play, right? I could decide I want to ping it. I could port scan. Let's try a port scan. Let's go ahead and start that. Oh, holy mackerel, it's running a web browser. Well, that's interesting. All right. Oh, and the printer port, of course. All right, fine. Okay, hang on. I know enough now. Okay, it is a printer. I know that the print ports are open. I know that it's got a browser. Well, heck, let's just try browsing to that guy. Boom, browse to it. Again, wide open, no HTTPS, just out of the box printer. And I can see the ink levels, right? Let's see, so come back over here. Where is this thing connected? It is connected. Let's do a path analysis to it. What's between me and it? Well, here I am. I'm going out of my wired port, going to the switch, and then I'm going through a bunch of different switches, in and out ports, right? And then boom, there it is, right? And at the end of that, so 5 hops away. Now this is where, so this is great, right? These are the things you can do in the field, on the site, as you're sitting there just ripping through the site, trying to identify any issues or vulnerabilities. But it turns out that if I would just take this discovery snapshot and come to the top here again, and come over here and say, hey, I'm just going to upload that to Link Live, and I'm going to put a job comment on this. Let's just go websec for our webinar on security. And job comments are a way of saying anything that comes off the box, a picture, a capture, an analysis file. Put this comment on there. It usually means I'm going to this job, we're doing this particular deployment, you know, and it's a sticky comment, right? And I could do a one-off comment here if I wanted to. I'll skip that for the moment. Come in here and let's see here. All right, so let me save that to Link Live. So now we're going to come over to Link Live, and turns out I can see that same network, all the same stuff I was just looking at, I can see in our topology view, right? And so it turns out exactly what we said on the unit. Let's see here. Oh, I killed the path already. Path, and start that sucker. And you can see exactly what was on the unit that I was plugged in over here somewhere. And I had to go through dev 1, switch 2, switch 3. This is a chain of switches we put up just for testing. This is our test lab, right? And so, but you can see that in fact they match. And I come out Netgear 1, and in fact, what's that say? It says I'm out on port 6. Let's zoom in on this guy. Where's my interfaces? Where's my, I can come down here, scroll to 6. There's one device. What's on 6? There it is, our brother printer, right? On VLAN 500. So you can kind of see how we've taken all that analysis and discovery. You can look at it on the go on the unit. You can look at it the next day. You could send the unit out, literally have somebody plug it in. It'll do the discovery, and boom, you're going to be done. You're going to know, and then you can just sit back in your chair. You don't even have to go on site. Just get the unit on site. In fact, it'll even, if you can get the unit to do remote discovery into the subnets, you can add additional subnets to the discovery. You don't even have to be on the site if you've got a path into, if you've got some connectivity into that site. So you can see, boy, a lot going on here. In fact, here's, in the process of discovering our stuff, of course, we're picking up all the stuff in the air. So I'm looking at this going, holy mackerel, what's this extreme over here? I don't know what that is. Let's throw some labels on it. Well, oh, that's the, gets a little crowded here. That's this easy Wi-Fi guy. Well, that's interesting. That's an extreme. See, when you click on the AP, so that is. That's Remax. Okay, that's our neighbors. That's over there. Want further confirmation of that? Let's take one of these extremes, C8. Come back over to our survey. And come over here, change my filter to an extreme. Grab that, extreme. Okay, so one of these are their guys. In fact, you can see my outlier that we just hunted down is there, right? Power of comparison. But let's just pick one of these BSSIDs, apply that, and we should get a different. Oh, hang on, I did that wrong. Sorry. One more time. Excuse me. Let me. I want just that BSSID. Because you can add as many in here as you want, right? So let me just pick. I'll pick a couple of these just to be sure. So let's apply that. There's those 3 BSSIDs. Sure enough, the realtors are in this space over here, right? And so you can see same drill as last time. But look at how far their stuff goes, right? I mean, they're splashing into, this could be a troubleshooting session on co-channel and JSON channel interference, right? But in this case, it's more of a security thing. So we got that. Let me, feeling rushed here because there's so much to do. In fact, we'll probably end up, to be honest with you, doing a separate webinar, just because there's, in the process of developing this webinar, I'd probably uncork, a couple dozen other workflows that would be fun to share. And so let's pivot to Wi-Fi a little bit. So I've been focusing on this discovery guy. Let's come over here. Oh, he was already there, wasn't he? Yes, he was. Okay, so let's come back out here. In our app space, Wi-Fi analysis, come in here. We immediately categorize everything we've seen. I could come in here and let me pick on a network here. So here's all the SSIDs. I could come in here, pick up. In fact, there's the Remax folks. Let me pick up. Let's see here. LRG, just to get there. All right, so let's pick LRG. Here where we got 14 APs with 24 BSSIDs. So almost immediately know it's just dual band. And operating across 9 channels. But I'm going to come in and take a look at the clients, and I'm going to sort by MAC, right? But I've got tons of different ways to sort these things, and then I'm going to take a guy here. In fact, I'm going to just to show you some of the power, right? If you're trying to locate Wi-Fi devices, there's all kinds of nefarious stuff that can go on, right? They could. I heard one story where if it detects anybody in the proximity, it stops transmitting, right? But let's say you have a surveillance camera. It's only going to transmit when you're walking by it and things like that. So it turns out that this guy right here actually is my cell phone. It's a Samsung Galaxy S10, and if I looked at the RF and traffic stats, he's not really doing much, right? And so, but I'm going to take him and watch this. Hopefully, I'm going to take him, turn him on, open him up, and let's see here. Go in. Start doing some action here. I don't know why it's. Hey, let me come back at it for a second. So why am I not seeing him? take a look at him. Okay, so I see him here on the wired side. See him here. I wonder if he changed APs because I had him off for so long. Okay, no, he's there. Okay, all right. I'm not going to get too augured in that. Why I'm not seeing him at the moment. But anyway, the idea is that you can watch the RF and traffic stats on a client, and in a lot of cases by proximity or even by pinging them, you can coax them out into the RF space, and then you can go hunt them down through traditional means. So let's see, let's do one more here. Let's come back here. So that's Wi-Fi segmentation. Of course, you can do all this in Link Lab also. I could come in and off of my, let's come over here to this guy. In fact, I probably have him over here in this tab already. Yeah, so during that same, everything we had in our Wi-Fi on the unit, we also were able to push up. So I can come in and look at how channels are being used. I can look at what the SSIDs are, right? And then if I said, hey, what SSID has got the most BSSIDs on it, right? You could say this guy with 24, right? And I can come in and look at BSSIDs and what they're doing. APs, BSSIDs, and what's really nice about this is you just got this ability to just sort and filter out through any of this stuff. Another nice one here, in fact, let me show you one more. So this happened yesterday, and I'll try to work towards closing out here. Too much to show. When I was looking at SSIDs, or looking at SSIDs, I came in and I filtered on security type here, filtered on security type. So these are our categories for SSIDs, and I said, hey, what's open, right? And said, hey, there's three things that are open. So I'll come back out here. There they are. I looked at this and I was like, wow. Okay, so I knew these two. These were in our anechoic chamber, right, for RF testing. But what's going on with this? So I clicked on this and I was like, well, that's weird. There's something broadcasting guests. There's an AP. It's sitting out there. Let's see here. What's it doing? Let me look at this BSSIDs. It's open. It's guest. It's out there, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And so I took this guy here. Let's take any part of this. Right? Let's take 66EB, right? And I came over here to my BSSIDs, and I'll just filter down to 66EB, and there it is, guest, right? 66EB, local admin. Let's see here. What? Yes, it's this guest SSID. I couldn't figure out what it was, actually, I got the wrong one here, but that's okay. Anyway, bottom line is we came in and go to the next slide here. So I came in, found this guy. So skip over that. Found this guy. This stuff, I'm just going to skip this stuff because I just literally don't have the time. This is an example of just how simple a survey can be. So I found this guy, and because I went into survey, and it turned out, let me do it this way. Sorry, I apologize. I will come into here, and let's go into SSIDs. And that was, let me do these by name so I can get them sorted and find it. And it was, Interesting. I don't seem to be picking them up at the moment. All right, hang on. So I came over here into my survey. Let me go back to my survey. And I knew he was. That's really strange. Hang on here. Let's filter SSIDs on open. Oh, you know what? I probably didn't plug them back in. That's right. Okay, yeah. So what happened was, that's right. Yeah. Sorry, we're not seeing them. But basically, I came in here and I was trying to figure out what was this device. And if we look at the SSIDs here, we will see it in. Get rid of this. Let me take this down. Oh, there is AME3. I was like, what's this AME3 thing doing here? So I took it and filtered it down, and it was showing up in just one spot. And I was like, well, that's weird. What's going on? And so it turns out, you know, we were NetScout. We split the building, and we're on this side, and there's their space, and there's the realtors, right? But literally, but it was a hard split, right? A whole new lobby. American Disabilities Act ramp had to be put in, concrete was poured, months in the making, caged off in the room to keep in the test lab to keep the ventilation. Hallways were blocked off, turned into big closets and things like that. It was a big deal, right? So I walked over, and sure enough, for all this work and years of separation, there was still up on the wall an old air magnet sensor. And I was like, well, that's crazy, right? So I was able to pick that up quickly, and of course I was kind of curious, like, what the heck? So because obviously when the buildings got separated and concrete was poured and walls were put in place, the AP was, this device was still on our side, and so I unplugged the RJ, got up on the cubicle, thank God it's a portable, right? And got up there and basically plugged in. Within 10 seconds, I had an auto test. I was completely into their network. Within 60 seconds, I discovered 203 devices. In fact, I pushed the topology up. I understood the topology of their network, all their devices, IP addresses, conference rooms, everything, right? And really, the reason I'm trying to highlight this is, you know, it just shows you that how, you know, just it's just human error, right? You know, this got left over there, nobody knew it. This happened. I see there's a wall jack at my car dealership in their little guest cubicle area. That one of the wall jacks is still active, goes right into their production network. Boom, discover all their devices, right? And so it's really pretty fascinating. Let me go back up. I'll try to get towards closure here. Let me say one last thing. Segmentation, one last thing. The other thing that's kind of interesting in Wi-Fi segmentation, talking about VLANs, is really, and the first time I got exposed to this was on a flight where I was like, wow, why am I seeing all these other people on this flight? And it turns out this all comes down to the great debate over, you know, you can call it client isolation or whatever. All the vendors have different names for it, but it's a big deal, right? I used to worry about somebody's going to get your stuff in the air, right? Now I worry they're going to connect to the network. And I have gone to gyms, 10 different retail outlets, every place I've gone. Basically, you're seeing all the other devices. You know, I'm sitting there hooked up on the guest Wi-Fi, and I'm seeing, you know, Gabby's MacBook and Don's iPhone and Zachary's iPad and all that stuff, right? So a nice and easy thing to do with the products is to be able to immediately detect whether or not you're running client isolation or not, and that may vary from SSID to SSID. So you just connect to different SSIDs In fact, you could do that with a profile group. You could say connect to this SSID, give them recall it, connect to your 7 different SSIDs, and then see where you know the IP addresses of all the other devices. So one last example here. Let me come through here. So you know, Etherscope, with one walk through the site, you can simultaneously discover topology. We don't care so much about the active one by one because we're not talking about Wi-Fi performance. We're talking about security. Passive survey, you can understand all the relationships between clients and APs, BSSIDs. You can do network element analysis. One last thing, and this is just coming out in about a week or two, as we sort of tried to address the security market more with our product line, we added a discovery difference feature, right? So this is an actual network that was discovered by an Etherscope. Right, and so it just gives you a sense for the little box, but wow, and so but the real power here, that's a lot to take in. The real power, of course, cognitively is in the comparison, right? And so we added a feature that is, let's see if I can get to this guy. Yeah, so you can now come in and take any 2 snapshots. Let me go back here, I'll show you. So I've got different snapshots, and I came in here and I took one snapshot and another snapshot, and I can look at them individually, but basically come in, pick any 2, generate a difference between the 2. I can now look at that in analysis, and I can immediately come in and filter on hey, I just want to see what's missing. Oh, there's a printer missing that was there before, and what's new? Oh, hey, TP-Link, that's mysterious, right? It could be a little, one of these little gateway router, triplexer things that they sell for $20. That somebody propped up a little AP in their cubicle so they can, game or do something at lunch. Who knows? So or something worse, right? If they get into your site once, and they can plug into and then somebody can plug into a port, could be anybody. And you can get on the guest network and put a camera in the bathroom. I mean, there's just so many weird scenarios. It's such a screwed up world, right? But let me look at this in topology. So let's see. So let's come in now. So here's my difference guide. So I'm going to look at this in topology, and this is where, rather than looking at that big massive map, I can come in and immediately zoom in, and we'll basically color. You can pick whether you want to look at problems on the network, or if you want to look at differences. So problems, I'm actually on my test network, so probably have something not quite right there. Let's find that just for grins. Let's see here.
James, just checking in. We're getting close to the top of the hour.
Yeah, Dan, why don't you have any questions?
Well, I've been answering a lot of questions that have been coming in, a lot of very positive comments, and we appreciate that very much. I think I've answered just about all the questions as we've been going along. There was a question around DHCP that I wasn't sure how to answer. Terrence asked, how can I use the Etherscope to locate devices that have I think screwed up DHCP somehow, causing bad addresses in the DHCP server, causing the DHCP scope to fill to 100% capacity?
Yeah, well, so that kind of gets into the pool management, right? And then usually there's a separate DHCP pool that needs to be assigned per VLAN. So either you don't have enough devices in the pool, or I would say your lease times are too long, right? You see transient places have brought their lease times down to like, minutes, right? Because they want, if you walk through that hotel lobby, they don't want you sucking on the guests and then leave. They don't want you, sucking down that IP address for eternity, right? So I think, you can bring us in. We'll get a DHCP address. We can show you if there's a second offer. We'll tell you if we couldn't get a DHCP address. And some of this, one of the things that's nice about the Etherscope is it does actually break down the let's come back over here to this guy. It does actually break down the the times, right? So you would probably see that you're not even going to get an offer. If there's nothing available in that pool, you will not even get an offer. And so that would be one way to sort of validate that. But in terms of you managing it better, you either need a bigger tool or probably a bigger pool or shorter lease times. In fact, and we show you the lease times here, though, right? So you could validate that provisioning too. And you could connect on an SSID, and you could make sure that your guest SSID has a 10-minute. In fact, let's take a look at that. Let's come back over here. Come back out here. Let's go to our guest Wi-Fi. Let's look at that DHCP. Let's see if I'm. Oh, still 1 day. All right. Well, that's okay. We're in office, right? But you know you can really get a sense of how things are configured, how wide the pool is, and all that, and if you got an offer or not. So hopefully that answers the question.
Good enough. And what is Etherscope going to find if .1x is implemented on the wired side?
.1x, so we operate as a .1x client, but then as we're scanning through, we will show you the security connection of the specific device on you know, the reality is if there's any encryption, we can't see the payload. But if you're, but one of the beautiful things about the Etherscope is it can be scanning through all the channels, as you can see here, it's scanning. But at the same time, it's also connected to one of the networks. I'm just on our guest network here. But if you connect to the production network, then we're going to sit there and basically we're going to take the address we were given. We're going to do discovery on that entire subnet, any other subnets you want to add, and then at the same time we're going to marry that up to what we're seeing in the air. And I kind of skipped over that, right? But that's we call that breaking the layer 2 ceiling. So in traditional Wi-Fi tools, you're only going to see the MAC, right? The only thing that's really in the air is the source and destination MAC, right? And so this is typically what you would see. When I can connect to the same network, then basically we take it and we see that MAC both in the air, but we can also then see that it has an IP address associated with it and start to interrogate it that way. And so you'll be able to basically, even though they're connected using 802.1x, the reality is if you're also connected using the second radio on that same network, then we're going to be able to basically tell you everything about all those clients, independent of what authentication means they used.
And James, I want to make sure we're clear about how we would differentiate our capabilities that you've talked about, you know, largely about connecting to the network, discovering the devices, where are they connected, looking at configurations. This is kind of a proactive use model. I'm going to go do this to check my network. For that matter, I mean, we called this event conducting a site security audit. So that is a proactive thing. And we're differentiating that approach versus other tools in the marketplace that monitor for example, for a DDoS attack.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the space is so huge. I mean there's detecting phishing, firewalling, DDoS protection, threat analysis and detection, malware, identity management. I mean, it's security landscape is huge, right? Our difference is, go to the site, drop it into the site. And do an audit and you know what, take a couple minutes, even if you just take a piece of grid paper and do a site survey, right? It's as easy as oh, let me start this. We're scanning through and a little hint, in about another couple weeks, we're going to show you how we're doing all the same stuff for Bluetooth at the same time. So you'll add that to your security scan, all the things you'll gather on the site. But I can just literally come in here and say, okay, I'm in this corner of the building. I'm in this corner. I'm in this corner. I can lay down a comment if I feel like I need to say, southwest corner. And oops, back around, and then stop that, push it to link live, and boom, I've immediately got this survey there.
Great, James. Thanks so much. Everyone, thank you again for attending. Hope you have a great day. This ends our webinar.